Good morning. How are we today? This morning? Okay, it was an early wake up tomorrow. I was going to ask you how many of you know this magazine? Who has read it? How many of you have seen some animated movies, Looney Tunes, made of these characters? Everybody. How many of you have seen Pixar movies? Everybody. This is amazing. This must be a very well-known brand then. Okay, so in Finnish this is Aku Ankka for you who comes from Canada, so you know this is Aku Ankka in Finland, Kalle Ankka in Sweden. And what Disney is doing now, they are making robots. They are making robots that put these stories alive. So they become just like theater. You can have those, you can have the Donald Duck here and Scrooge, Uncle Scrooge here and the little kids and all, and they can play you a theater instead of this, or also with this. So I think this is the big change, and I think this is a great example of what is going on. What is going on is that from this paper, we have already coded bits with bits and zeros and ones. We have coded some live movies. And the next step is that those movies are coming into real world so that we can see the real Donald Duck walking here as a robot. How many of you have seen a human who is dressed like a Donald Duck? In Disneyland or somewhere? Yes. But now they are making robots. So robotics is actually making the virtual world coming into physical world, so that there are these creatures, robots, who are doing things together with us people. How many of you think that robots are going to take over our jobs? Some of you? How many are worried about it? Even less? Okay, you are not worried. That's good. It means that you are creative people. Richard Florida, who has been studying creativity, he created also the word creative class, and he's saying that all those jobs that are kind of blue-collar jobs and jobs in farm, in factories, they are really going to disappear. But the jobs that include service and creativity, they are growing all the time. And so I believe that here are people who are both creative and service-minded, so you have no problems in finding jobs, I can assure you. So this month's theme all over the world in Creative Mornings is robot, and it's not an accident. There has been a huge megatrend. I call it robotization because it's kind of more than just a robot or just a machine. It's also a phenomenon that it's going to have implications in all our lives. It's going to impact our societies. It's going to impact how we work. It's going to impact the business models of companies. So therefore, it's important to see not only the robot, but the robotization as a phenomenon. What is going on? And we need to change this society. We need to think, what is democracy? How is the decision-making in societies? Where does the societies get its income? How are we going to have our great Finnish welfare state if robots are doing all the work? This is something that we need to think about, and we are not thinking about it enough. One of my favorite authors is Peter Diamandis. He's also the founder of Singularity University and X Prize company. And his first book, I don't know if it was the first book of him that I read, it's called Abundance. The future is better than you think. Have you read it? No one. You must read it. Because for me, it wasn't about robots, but it was about technology. And it was about how, with the help of the technology, we can solve the big problems of this earth. We can solve poverty. He's talking about rising billion. We can solve diseases. We can solve the environmental catastrophes. But we need to act. And really, the future can be better than we think. And now, he launched a new book. It's called Bold. And in this book, he says that something that is going on is like Cambrian explosion. Who knows what is Cambrian explosion? Oh my goodness, you know, I didn't know. Here, you must be professors here, okay. I didn't know what it is, but anyway, so 500 million years ago, happened something very special. There was an explosion of new species coming on Earth. New species in very short time. And now Peter Diamandis says that something similar is going on now. There are new species, new creatures coming on Earth to live with us people and animals, obviously, and they are robots. And if you look at those robots, they really actually look like animals. There, on the left, there is the big dog, developed by DARPA and Boston Robotics, and it's now owned by Google. And these are really huge creatures that they can run now 40 kilometers per hour, and you cannot push them down. They just keep on running. And it was quite fascinating. If you think about now design and architecture and infrastructure, in MIT they were thinking about visions that with these kind of robots, you perhaps couldn't need to have cars anymore in cities because these go with legs. And so we could have garden cities without cars, with wheels. I think that's quite exciting because think how much space these streets for cars take, just space in our cities. Then you can see a snake-like robot there in the middle. They can save our waters, our seas and oceans, and they can also clean pipelines from inside and do it very cheaply. There is, well, how do you call this sudenkorento in English? Dragonfly, exactly. It's actually a statue, but it's a statue that interacts with you. And it's a robot, so that it can do something. Then here is a therapy robot. And you all have seen this Paro robot, the seal robot, white, you have seen it, which you hug and it reacts to your hugging, and it learns to know its name. So if you start to call it, for example, George, so it starts to learn that, okay, I am George, and every time you say George, you're like, ah. So it's very cute, and it has been helping many elderly people. And here is from Festo. They have done a kangaroo-like robot, and it can jump like a kangaroo. And there, the one revolutionary thing is the swarm of robots. These kind of swarms, they can do amazing things. For example, there are snake-like robots that are swimming in the oceans and they are cleaning the oceans in swarms. They can also do many other things in terrain, these kind of swarms. So they are developing all the time more robots, and actually when people are developing robots, we want to develop robots that look something familiar to us. And therefore they look a little bit like animals. So, but anyway, so if we talk about Cambrian explosion, maybe in 500 million years from now they are talking, oh, there was this Cambrian explosion 2.0, and the robots came. These robots, they are also quite intelligent. They can think. And those swarm robots, they can communicate. This is what you think when I say robot. Usually you think about this. It's an arm-like robot, industrial robot, and here is, and oftentimes they are orange or yellow, and they do very simple tasks. And these kind of robots have existed since 1950s, but mainly from 1980s the factories started to use it. And these are classical robots, which you program to do certain movements, certain tasks in certain order. and they are very effective, and they are getting also better all the time. For example, in car industry, they couldn't make cars without these robots. We were visiting Uusikaupunki auto factory, car factory last week, and there are 200 new robots making cars. And 98% of the chassis is made with robots. So there is no chance that these kind of jobs would come back to people because robots are so much better, they are so much faster, they make so much better quality. For example, welding. Welding is never going back to people anymore because just the quality is not enough for products that we need today. But anyway, when we talk about advanced robots, you can think of these robots. We need these because we need effective production. But then when you think about these robots, and when you look at these robots, you must understand that there are and there will be factories with no people working in those factories. And for this reason, it is so important that you start to think that what is the future of work? When we are here in this creative space and creative people, one thing that I hate the most is people who say, oh, but there are these stupid people who are not creative, what are they going to do? I hate that every person is creative. But if you start thinking like this, oftentimes these people are people who say that, okay, I'm very creative, but there are people who are not creative. And we should give this same opportunity to be creative to everybody, because this robotizing time needs everybody to be creative, to find that creativity from themselves. These guys are going to do the not creative job. Let them do it. And these robots are from ABB. And ABB, it used to be ASEA, and ASEA from Sweden, of course. So ASEA brought the first industrial robot to Finland, 1979, and it was doing welding in fish cars. And now ABB has taken a step forward too. They are not staying with those. This is ABB's new Yumi robot. They didn't ask us for it, it's called Yumi. And in Finnish, Yumi means stuck. So they didn't ask us when they gave the name, but you and me, you, me, it means that it can work together with the human being. Let's see if, no, here. So these robots, they work in a cage because these are dangerous to people. When you see this kind of robot and it starts to work, it don't mind if you are near, it does what it needs to do. So don't go close to these guys. But this one works together. I have seen this robot, Yumi, work together with a person in automatic affair. And they work together, and if the person gives to him or to her something, she changes what she was doing and starts to do something else. It learns. Also, when you are a user of this kind of robot, you don't need to know anything about coding. You don't need to do this in order to have this doing something what you want. You take it by the hand and you show, let's do this and let's do this. And then when you intervene its work, it does something else. So everybody don't need to code in order to use robots, and they are getting more and more simple to use. There is exponential growth going on. And when we look at the market, in the worldwide market, so the robot market is growing exponentially. And those industrial robots that you saw, they are also growing. Only in China last year, the growth of the market was 40%. And China is robotizing in fast pace, so that they say that in 2017, China is the most robotized country in the world, although now they are quite low. So think how fast it's growing. And never again say that there is cheap workforce in China. Chinese people are not cheap workforce. Cheap workforce in China are the robots, not the people, not anymore. And it's spreading that there will be no cheap workforce in this world anymore. I think it's a good thing. There is exponential growth. But exponential growth is not for the industrial robots, not for those orange arms. It's for service robots. And when we look what ABB is doing, ABB is one of the biggest, there are 3 big robot manufacturers, ABB, Yaskawa, and KUKA, and they are all now developing this kind of robots that also can do service jobs. It's not difficult to see this guy, for example, washing the dishes. How many of you have a dish machine at home? Yes. So it's kind of a robot, but it's a bad robot because actually you need to wash the dishes before you can put them inside. So exponential growth has to do with service robots. One of them is a car. And traffic is becoming service. And the car, I'm driving a robot car, and there is actually a huge growth going on within car business. Mercedes-Benz is saying that in 2020 they have a robot car in production, so that there is coming lots of robot cars. Obviously, it needs a lot of change of our infrastructure so that they can really work. But the biggest change for all of us comes from service robots, from these therapy robots. How many of you think that it is really, really bad idea to give our elderly people to be taken care of by robots? You think so, and you quite many. Okay, there was a story about a man who was suffering from dementia, and in 2 years he hadn't spoken a word. Then he got this Paro robot, the seal robot, and he was hugging him for 2 hours, and he spoke his first word in 2 years. How many of you would like to be hugged by a dementia patient for 2 hours? Sorry, no. Did you raise your hand? No. Exactly. And there are many other things what robots can do. For example, in Sweden, okay, they invent everything great in Sweden, like Måns Zelmerlöw and everybody. So there are also this great giraffe robot. Okay, he was an American who invented it, but anyway, he's working in Sweden now with this robot, who helps the elderly people to stay longer time at home, living autonomous life with dignity. Dignity is the key word when we think about service robots coming to take care of our elderly people. And there is a fantastic story also from Sweden again. There is a robot called Bestick, and it was invented by a man who had his arms paralyzed after polio. And he felt embarrassed when he went to a restaurant with his wife, and his wife needed to feed him like this in the restaurant. Darling, have some entrecôte. I'll chop it and everything for you. So he thought that, okay, this is enough. I don't want to go with my wife to a restaurant anymore like this. And he invented a robot that feeds him. And now he has it. And he is like one of us, eating with us, independently, with his own pace, and not being depending from anybody else anymore. It's dignity. But at the same time, there are huge savings for the society when the home service doesn't need to come every time to feed these people. And when they come, they can have maybe time for something else than doing the feeding and doing the cleaning and doing this kind of things. There is also this Now robot. You probably everybody know the humanoids. The humanoids, they are helping in service, for example, in hotels, in many tourist attractions, and they will help our everyday lives. So, the robots are coming, and I'm asking, are you ready? I hope you are ready, because you are building this world. Thank you.